Good morning, everybody. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General here. I want to say thank you for joining me today and us today as I announce an important legal action we're taking to safeguard California's ability to provide essential services to crime victims, including those who may be undocumented. We're here today to take a stand to ensure that every Californian, regardless of immigration status, can receive the victim services they deserve, services that are fundamental to their safety and to their well-being. Our state has long been a leader in protecting the rights of survivors of crime and will continue to defend those rights, especially in the face of federal policies that threaten to undermine access to justice for vulnerable communities. This morning, I've joined a multi-state lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Justice's unlawful restrictions on federal grant funding, restrictions that prohibit the use of these funds for legal services for undocumented victims. These Victims of Crimes Act, also known as VOCA, grants and services training officers and prosecutors violence against women formula grant program fund crucial programs for survivors of domestic violence, of sexual assault, child abuse, human trafficking, and elder abuse. And at the very start of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we face the reality that President Trump is moving to strip funding from organizations that support survivors of crime. We continue to make it clear we'll hold the Trump administration to account for actions that are unlawful and unjust, which is why today marks our 41st lawsuit in 36 weeks against the Trump administration. That is how often and how consistently the Trump administration has broken the law, 41 times in 36 weeks, harming California in the process. In July, the US DOJ announced that states wouldn't be able to access VOCA funds unless they agreed to broadly support and assist the US Department of Homeland Security's immigration enforcement agenda. In August, our office brought a lawsuit with other states challenging these conditions on VOCA. After we filed this lawsuit, US DOJ announced that it was imposing a restriction across multiple US DOJ grants, including VOCA, that prohibits using grant funds for legal services to undocumented immigrants. This new condition threatens at least $94 million in current funding to California. So just under $100 million is what's at stake here for California, which in turn jeopardizes vital services like helping victims file police reports, seek compensation, provide emergency shelter and transitional housing assistance, access legal advocacy, and so much more at the exact moment when these survivors, these victims, are most vulnerable. Worse still, it would force state agencies and service providers into the impossible role of immigration enforcers, diverting scarce resources away from victim care and creating confusion and creating fear. We're here today to make sure that that does not happen. Our lawsuit argues that US DOJ's new restrictions, one, violate the spending clause of the US Constitution by applying conditions retroactively and without clear notice, that they are arbitrary and capricious in violation of the Administrative Procedures Act because the DOJ offered no meaningful justification for this abrupt change midstream, and that they don't hold up to long-standing federal regulations, which explicitly state that access to victim services doesn't depend on immigration status. These conditions aren't only unlawful, and they're unlawful in all of those ways I just stated, they are also reckless. They undermine the very mission of victim services to help survivors rebuild their lives and bring offenders to justice. Today, we're taking action to defend the rights of survivors of crime and to protect the funding that helps keep our communities safe. The stakes for California couldn't be higher. Last year alone, nearly 1 million Californians benefited from victim assistance funding. That support included legal advocacy, housing assistance, emergency financial aid, counseling, and medical care. If US DOJ's restrictions are allowed to stand, survivors could be forced into the shadows. Perpetrators could escape accountability, and communities across California could become less safe. Our service providers depend on these funds to continue their life saving work. We can't allow Washington to strip them away or dictate who deserves access to justice. We'll continue to fight to ensure that every Californian, regardless of their immigration status, has access to the full range of victim services they deserve. This lawsuit isn't just about fighting for funds, it's about fighting for fairness, equality, and the protection of vulnerable individuals in our state. We'll continue to work with our partners across the country to hold the federal government accountable and to ensure that California's law enforcement agencies and victim service providers can continue the critical work they do to protect our communities. Let me be clear, California will always stand up for the rights of its residents, especially those who are most vulnerable. Our priority at California DOJ remains the same, ensuring a fair and just system, one that upholds the rights of all victims. And I want to take a moment to thank the dedicated team in my office who've been working tirelessly to bring this lawsuit forward. They got us to this really important point today, and that team includes Christopher Tenorio, Lee Sherman, Luke Friedman, Brian Bilford, Jesse Basbaum, Joel Marrero, and Michael Newman. Thanks to a great team working overtime to deliver for the people of California. And before I take any questions, I will circle back at the end. I'll hand it over to the CEO of House of Ruth, Pat Bell.
Thank you, Attorney General Bonta. House of Ruth provides comprehensive services to all survivors of domestic violence, including 24-hour hotline, shelter, counseling, housing support, and legal advocacy. And we've been doing so for the past 48 years. As recipients of the DOJ grant Cal OES VOCA XL, we offer legal representation, assistance with domestic violence restraining orders, court accompaniment, legal clinics, consultation, and referrals to all survivors. We are deeply concerned with the recent restrictions on the usage of these funds for undocumented immigrants. When a survivor seeks safety and support, we don't ask their immigration status. We ask, how can we help you feel safe? What do you need to begin healing? Our mission and values are rooted in compassion, not exclusion. Violence does not discriminate, and our services should not either. Every survivor deserves access to our hotline, our counseling services, and legal support. Imagine being a mother and you're fleeing abuse, terrified for your children's safety, and you're being told by an advocate that you can no longer access legal support because of your immigration status. These restrictions don't just deny help, they create fear, silence, and isolation. They empower abusers who weaponize immigration status to control and threaten survivors. Both survivors and advocates have witnessed perpetrators exploit the fear of deportation. So survivors are faced with the difficult choice, safety or status. And quite often, they choose to stop showing up for services and remain at risk in the abusive relationship. Our advocates are trained to meet survivors with care and compassion. These restrictions make it more difficult to build trust. And when survivors are excluded, entire neighborhoods become less safe. If survivors feel unsafe coming forward, abusers remain free to harm others. We need policies that prioritize survivor safety, justice, and access to life-saving services, not create barriers and exclusion. Everyone deserves to feel safe. Thank you to Attorney General Bonta and your staff for continuing to support victims of crime and survivors of domestic violence.
Thank you. And next we have Mark Lee, CEO of Radiant Futures.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Mark Lee, CEO at Radiant Futures. We are a nonprofit that was founded back in 1976, which makes us the oldest domestic violence agency in Orange County, and we're the third oldest in the United States. So we have a very long history of providing our critical services to survivors of both domestic violence and human trafficking. And at Radiant Futures, we believe that safety and access to safety is a human right. No one should have to weigh their options in securing that safety between the fear from their intimate partner and the fear because of their immigration status. And when a survivor finally gets the courage to seek out and come to us for support, our main and only question to them should be, how can we help you? How can we keep you safe? And not ask about their immigration status. So when we turn someone away, or when we have to tell a survivor that they can't access our services because of their immigration status, we are forcing them to be in a very vulnerable state. We're also sending a very dangerous message to the people that cause harm, letting them know that right now is the time to take advantage and exploit the situation and cause more harm, knowing that their partner can't do anything about it. And that undermines the essence of safety. And because of that, the cycle of violence will just continue. That's why it is so important for us to continue our work and serve anybody who's been impacted by intimate partner violence, regardless of their status and regardless of their gender and sexual orientation. That's why we stand alongside with our community and the survivors in our community. We are standing alongside with our partners like House of Ruth, and we are standing alongside with leaders like Attorney General Bonta to ensure that every survivor has the right to safety. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Mark, and thank you, Pat. We can take questions now, if any, from the press.